Spotted a black Plymouth, older black Plymouth.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's got it. It's Arrington. It's Arrington, and I'm gonna stop him and talk to him. So we're gonna stop him. Oh, I can't catch him. I can't catch him. He's gone.
Look at the roadblock.
What's going on, man? Joey, what's going on, man? All right, bring him on over here. Man, what are y'all going? Man? Don't try to fool me. I know who this is.
I don't know. They think they know what they're doing.
Look, hey, look at all this. What's all this?
Got nothing to do with it.
Huh? I'll tell you what.
Trouble again.
I need a lawyer.
I'm your man. I'm a moonshine lawyer.
I've had about enough of this, guys. Y'all keep doing it.
Sure.
You going? Hold on,
Don't look at me.
Mr. Good. They going to jail. They going to jail.
You got the money for the fine right here.
You got the money for the fine?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see how much you got, by golly.
All right.
Because you're going to have some money for these guys.
Well, they deserve it. They're hard-working boys.
Joey.
That ain't but a couple of tens. I don't even know.
No, that's 2,000.
Huh?
You ain't carded it right. Look at here. 500, 500, 500, and 500.
But it's Christmas time. I need more money than that to keep these guys out of jail.
We'll get you some more, Sheriff.
Okay. Okay. Give me some more.
Joey, what's going on?
Hey, I didn't know he left that stuff in there.
Who left it?
Daddy.
He left it here.
Wait, where are you at?
See?
Did you know it's in there?
Nobody knew, huh? Nobody knew?
We
Well, I
supposed to
guess we're all free then. We didn't know anything about it.
No. Hey.
I thought I was going to pick up a couple women.
Yeah. He got a trunk full. I got plenty of evidence.
That ain't no big.
And I'm
that
keep-
ain't no big.
If I could just get out that door.
Where's the FedEx guy at?
If I could get out that door, I'd be ready to roll. I thought we was
I ain't going to jail for his.
I thought we were supposed to be picking up women, man. I didn't know it was going to be hauling around liquor.
First of all, I welcome you all here tonight. We're here to sort of acknowledge the people that are older than myself. In case you're not sure about it, I'm almost the youngest person here. And we hope to, or at least I hope to acknowledge the people that paved the way for people that have been able to do this stuff as a career. One I could think of off the top of my head is Jeff Hensley. And there's certainly a few others in here that if it wasn't for the people in front of us that spent their money and tried to spend other people's money and to make all this work, it just I'm honored. But anyway, we got a few people here. Mr. Henry Law, Virgil Good, Wayne Napier, myself. We've got a few X-rated stories to tell. We got a few stories that put them in jail. And we got a few stories that kept them out of jail. So anyway, I'd like to start with myself. I was reminded earlier about a friend I grew up with, Mr. David Moose. He was talking about the day we went to school, and the headline said that the Grand Marshal of the Christmas parade got caught hauling liquor yesterday. So anyway, I'm not so sure I knew it then, but so we got stuff going on here, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Wayne since he's the closest, and he can tell you a little bit about his experiences and after hours and going down the road and when he shouldn't go down the road and the cars didn't drive exactly right because they had too much weight in the rear trunk. You know, Steve Draper referred to that coming in, but I didn't know it was there. It's just been there for a long time.
Well, I don't know where to start, but I guess I'm going to start with my first trip. It was
a week after they had that picture of your Torino with the trunk open down at Cascade. But I was asked to drive a car to North Carolina, and your dad told me, he said, when we go down from Danville to Hillsboro, we're going to take a sharp left. I'm going to stop at the first house. You keep going. You go to the second stop sign. When you go through the second stop sign, you'll see a big tobacco barn out there under a night light. You go out there, and me and this other fellow be there shortly. I said, okay. So I go out there, go to the tobacco barn, pull around the corner in the tobacco barn, back seats full, trunks full. That's a county police officer in uniform. And I just cut the motor off and sat there. So a few minutes, there come a set of headlights. It was Buddy and his friend. The policeman gets out of his car. He comes over there to me. He says, all right, young man, give me 5 cases or I'm taking you to jail. And your daddy and that other guy was standing there dying laughing. They knew that was going to happen. But they broke me in right that night. And wasn't too long. I ended up doing more, doing whatever. And one night I was driving a truck with a camper shell going to Salt City. And I was told to have a CB to listen to, but not to never say nothing. So somebody behind me kept telling me it's going through Summerfield, said, whoever that is driving that truck, please pull over. I need to talk to you. I just ignored it. Well, as we got on down and crossed that lake where you go into Greensboro, the guy said, look, I got to turn off. I'm telling you for the last time, if you got a CB on, pull over. Your curtain has fell down. And I turn and I walk around behind the truck and I look. Sure enough, the curtain had fell down and all you could see was plastic jugs. So I fixed it and went on about my business. That was one thing I remember. Huh?
They won't empty? The plastic jug won't empty?
Of course not, Joey. Come on. And then I had the misfortune of getting caught one night. And ended up go to court, and the ATF agent was standing there, and the judge was talking, and the judge asked the ATF agent, said, did he try to resist arrest, or did he try to run? Did he give y'all a hard time? He said, no, when he saw us, I think he knew who we was because he pulled in a gas station. And he said, but it was kind of funny, only way from Greensboro to Winston to lock him up. He said, I turned around and I asked him, I said, you want to tell us who you was holding that moonshine for? I said, well, sure. I was holding it for Robert Mitchum. So when the ATF agent told the judge that in the courtroom, just like you guys laughed, a lot of people laughed, and the judge, he was embarrassed. He didn't like that remark. And he said, I'm going to sentence you to 5 years in a federal pen. And he poured himself some water. He took a drink, set it down, and I'm standing there. My gosh, 5 years. And he pours himself another cup, drinks it down. He says, but I'm going to drop it all but 5 months. You pull 5 months. And I did. And the funny thing, he gave me 10 days to go home and get my business straight and to pay my $1,500 fine before I went to jail. I hauled liquor up until the night I went to court. I was trying to get my business straight. I come home from pulling time, and Charles Stultz and Lonnie Eggleston carried me to jail. They give me a ride. They didn't make me walk.
They didn't make you get a cab?
So anyway, I come home. I was home one night, slept in the house. Next night, back to South Boston. I never quit. And then one night, I was coming up from Salt City from Moon's Dance Land about 1 o'clock in the morning. I passed Moon's. Moon was beautiful. I cut the headlights off, drove it all the way to the state line. I cut them back on. I went on home, went to bed. I couldn't go to sleep. Something told me, Wayne, it's time to quit. That was in November of 79. In January of 80, I know why something told me to quit. I met my wife, Sharon. Virgil knows her. And her 3 kids. And we got married. We've been married 43 years or something. God blessed me that night. I retired. It's your turn.
All right. Wayne, I'm sure Sharon greatly appreciates your U-turn in the road in January 1980.
Yep. Never went back to it.
I'm just going to make a few comments about the history. Everyone in here, I am certain, had an ancestor involved with the making of whiskey. The thing was, it was mostly legal then. My great uncle, he was in the state senate, he was in the House of Delegates, and he fought as a lieutenant colonel in the Confederacy. And he did it legally. You could do it legal manufacture of whiskey in Virginia until 1914. Then they had a statewide referendum and they voted to prohibit the making of whiskey, but not the selling of whiskey. Then about 1920, you had the nationwide push for prohibition, and you couldn't sell it except by prescription from a druggist. And it stayed like that until they repealed the Prohibition Amendment. The Prohibition Amendment to the Constitution caused a lot of people to get in a lot of trouble in doing something that their ancestors had done legally for decades and decades and decades. You had the White Rose Distillery. I remember that. Well, I didn't personally remember it, reading about it in Henry County. Up in Patrick County, you had the DeHart Distillery. And in Franklin County, there were, at one time, a relative of mine was the still inspector, and he has a map where there were 94 legal distills. He was the inspector for the government, and they had to pay a little tax in Henry County and Franklin County. And when the Depression came, most of the people that were involved with, that's how they'd made a living legally for years and years and years. And then because of Prohibition, what they were doing became illegal. And then the repeal changed that, but there was still a lot of control. And Henry, I can tell you about, the laws have been greatly relaxed. He's doing stuff now that's legal. And the General Assembly, you can thank them, they have been responsible for a lot of these changes in Richmond. And what Henry's doing now is legal, but if he was doing it 25 years ago, they'd be swarming all over you. Isn't that right, Henry?
I would think so, yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Henry, and he can give you some first-hand info, probably on how to make it great.
I can tell you one thing about legal and illegal. There's a whole lot more money in illegal than illegal. I'll tell you that right off Jump Street. And Virgil here, his dad was a prosecuting attorney in Franklin County. I'll tell this story right quick. And he caught my dad years ago, and Virgil was tough. I mean, he didn't like my dad. And he was up there in the courtroom. He was hollering, "We got Amos. We've been after him for years and years and years, and we got him. We think it's time to send him to the penitentiary." So the judge did. He gave him 2 years up at Richmond, 500 Spring Street. Yeah. So I don't hold that against you. And Buddy Arrington, Man, I tell you what, I was a young man, and he came to Dad's house all the time. I thought it was so cool. He'd come up there during the week. Must have loaded him thousands and thousands of gallons of liquor through the years. And then Sunday, turn the TV on, everybody be running, be racing. I thought that was the coolest thing I ever saw. Is Chubby Arrington around here anywhere? Where's Chubby at? Chubby, what you doing, buddy? One day, stole a Jeep of ours one time, and Chubby, he didn't have Oreo then. He stole a Willis Jeep of ours, and so we got Chubby. He had that little plane, and Chubby said, "Well, we'll find that Jeep." So we went flying all over Franklin County, and Chubby, he's like a crazy wild man on that plane. Scared me to death. I'm like, what am I doing here? He's swooping right down on the treetops, and I could see the cap holes in the old stills and water lines running everywhere. And I'm not Catholic, but that day I was a little concerned. I didn't know he was going to make it back or not. So we landed, Chubby, we landed plane back, and about 3 o'clock that morning, we didn't find it. We didn't find the Jeep. By 3 o'clock that morning, we heard a noise outside of Daddy's front of Daddy's house. They had seen us, Chubby and us, flying that plane on the treetops, and they got word that we was looking for that Jeep. They brought the Jeep back at 3 o'clock in the morning, bailed out of the Jeep, jumped in another truck. Thank you, Chubby. We got that Jeep back. Thanks to Chubby on that one. Yeah, but I come from a long line of moonshots. Most of y'all know that. We was making 12, 15,000 gallons a month. I mean, for years and years and years. Everybody going to jail, getting out and get back in and come back out. And I always wondered why you go to jail like that and you come back out and do the same thing again, over and over and over. And of course, these lawyers always got our money. We ended up not much money. Lawyers always got it all. But that was some good times. I'm telling you, it was a lot of good times running from the law and getting away. And sometimes you'd be lost $3,000 or $4,000, but you'd be got away. As long as you got away, you rock and roll again. Mash something back in and keep on rolling with it. And all those high-speed cars. And we got where we would just roll with the traffic, like you was talking about. We just rolled with the traffic, and we didn't have to worry about those fast cars, back in those days. But it was a whole lot to it. It's a whole lot to it now. But, when you was raised up around it, and I watched my dad in and out of prison and kicking our doors in and taking everybody off to jail, all my uncles and cousins and all of us, actually. But when I look back at it, I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I never dreamed that it would all evolve the way it has now. We'd be up here talking about moonshine, because we always kept it quiet. We never talked about it, couldn't talk about it. And I got 2 sons now, and it's just, to me, it's just so great that I'm able to teach my sons now. So my grandfather, my father, me, now I'm going to be able to teach my sons. I didn't think I was going to be able to do that, the way the laws and all were. I got my license. I looked at my cousin Kenny one day, and I said, Kenny, we petitioned the governor and got our civil rights back. So I said, I'm going to petition the governor. I'm going to apply for my distiller's license. Kenny said, you must be out of your ever-loving mind. He said, they're not going to give you no distiller's license. Well, I applied for it and got them. I could not believe it. About 2 or 3 weeks later, got the license. I said, it must be some kind of misunderstanding. So we come up the road one day, and we had a coil worm on the back of the truck, and I had a piece of paper in the dash that said I could have that coil worm on the back of my truck. So normally we'd cover stuff over. We didn't want anybody to see anything. So we riding down the road, and your worm sticking up about 6 or 8 inches above, maybe a foot above the cab. Kenny, he's looking out the window on both sides, and he said, you sure we can do this? And I said, yeah, man. I'll tell a piece of paper on the dash says we can do it. I don't know. But he said, we'll get pulled over. I'm gone. And he would have been too. If he hits the ground, you got to rock and roll with it. But I was telling him, I was a historical society a while back, and he was telling me this story about this revenue officer came in to this guy's house. And revenue officer, the little girl was there, a little 9-year-old girl, and the little revenue officer looked at the little girl and said, little girl, where's your daddy at? And the little girl said, my daddy's down at the steel place. He said, oh, he is, huh? The girl said, yeah. He said, where's your mama at? The little girl said, my mama's down at that steel place. He's catting him up, how many he's going to put in jail. And he's looked at the little girl, and he said, I'll tell you what, little girl, I'll give you $1 if you take me down to that steel place. She said, all right, I'll do that. So she stuck her hand out. She said, give me my $1. He said, no, I'm going to give you the $1 when I get back. She said, sir, if you go to that steel place, you're not coming back. I want my $1 now. They shot a couple trucks and all up we were in, and one time I was getting away and they shot a truck up, and I jumped down the floorboard, just lucky. It went through the back, came out the front, And normally they wouldn't shoot at you like that, but that day, I don't know what happened, but, you know, they unloaded on us. And it's some trying times. It's rough work. I mean, tough. 12, 15 hours a day, you know, day after day after day, rain, cold, sleet, hell. And now I'm making it inside. It's unreal. Nice cement floor and heat, air conditioning, whatever I want. And I got the steel right over here that an old cap over there that'll all cut. If y'all look at it real close, it's got a bunch of axe holes in it. And we kept patching them back up. You know, for a long time, we'd braze the steels and all back up. So the law was, you know, they'd come back through and they'd see all the axe holes where we had fixed them up. So they got smart to that. So they got after the C4, the dynamite. So they started blowing them up. When they did that, there was no repairing them, no fixing them at all. They blew them all to hell. But yeah, it was some trying times. But I had some good times with it. What do you think, Joey?
I think I got off easy. But, okay.
I'm gonna bother y'all one more time. Never will forget, one day I was working down at Buddy's service station. We had 3 state troopers that we changed the oil and worked on their police cars and this and that. And certain state trooper comes in out one day and he says, told Buddy, he said, change your oil and filter and check my brakes and get everything right. And he said, I'm gonna take your 61 Ford. I gotta go to court. He leaves Buddy's service station, parks that 61 Ford on the square in downtown Martinsville, goes to court. He comes back down there and he said, Buddy, there's something wrong with that car. It got a little bit of sway in it. It's got a tire or something low. Buddy had been to Ferrum, to the cat hole.
Cat hole, cat house.
Got 10 cases of apple brandy in glass and put it in that 61 Ford. And that state trooper picked that car up and went to downtown Martinsville to court and brought it back. And then we went and delivered the apple brandy that night.
I'd like to introduce this lady here. I just met her today. Now, I'm not sure what her whole name is, but I would know her as Mrs. Brown. Pauline. We're going to call her Pauline Brown. Well, she had a brother, his name is Melvin Brown. His name was in the paper with my dad when he got caught, but he wore a brown uniform and a badge. Good to meet you. And I think we got a story out here. Mr. Metz?
I'll tell a story on Wayne here. Been knowing Wayne a long time. And we used to farm out here on Beaver Creek, where long straightaway is. And we had a lot of cattle out there, about 500 head of cattle. One night I got a call about 4 o'clock in the morning, said the cow was out. All the deputies knew me. And so it gave me a call, so we were going down, and we came by the college road up there. And when we did, I saw lights flying in there. I said, well, we found a cow. And sure enough, got down in, right where the industrial park is, used to be a pullover there. And what had happened was that a car had come along, big Buick Electra, hit this cow, knocked the cow out, and then turned sideways. Then a guy coming from Martinsville came down and pulled over. With the lights from his car, the guy in front of me was blinding him, and he ran right into the side of the car. That's what I saw. So I got there, and I jumped out. We put flares out. Irving Kid, buddy, was with me, my good friend. And so we got out, and we asked the guy, is he okay? He said, yeah. And I asked this guy, and he said, well, I was in the truck over here. I said, who's in the car? Nobody. I thought, well, gee, maybe somebody got out of the car after the wreck and we ran over him or something and pushed him out in the bushes. So I crawl under the car and I look everywhere and I can't find anything. So then I told the policeman when he got there, I said, it's either a lady, dope, or liquor. So about 3 days later, the trooper called me and he said the car was registered to a man who had been dead for 5 years in Mountain Valley. So 15 years went by. And I'm wondering who in the heck killed my cow that night. We have one of the stores we had was Ficksburg General Store down here. And one day I was there for something and I happened to walk back. Some lady wanted a loaf of bread, so I ran back to get it. I went by the booth. Wayne was there. And Wayne was telling this guy about this damn cow I hit one morning. I hear it. I mean, if I'd been a minute earlier, a minute later, I still wouldn't know. So I go back. I said, Wayne, did you hit? He said, yeah. He said, as soon as I hit it, I jumped out and ran. He said, I didn't get 100 yards. I heard somebody hit the car. And I think he had a shirt in the back of his car with Wayne on it. The police asked him about it. He said, there's a lot of people named Wayne. So he got out of it. But for 15 years, I wondered who hit my cow, and I never could find out. So a lot of stories. And Joey, I just want to tell you, this is a fantastic venue. It's so great what you're doing. Everybody's so proud of what you're doing, and it's been great. Thank you for having everybody.
Gordon, that state trooper you talked to is the same state trooper that got in the 61 Ford and drove it to the courthouse.
But back in the 90s, I worked part-time for this guy, for Joey, helping build race engines. And his daddy came up to me one time and said, you know, I found a case of good brandy. I said, I know a guy, and I told him a little bit. He said, find out if he's got any. So I went, the guy said, yeah, I got 2 cases. And Buddy told me, if it's good stuff, I'll buy a whole case. So I brought one back, a case, showed it to Buddy. And he did something that I had heard about all my life and never seen it done. Buddy opened the top of one of them half-gallon jars, poured a little drop or 2 of brandy in his hand, and rubbed his hands together like this, and then took a breath of it. Have you ever heard of that technique? I'd always heard of it. I've never seen it done. To Joey's daddy did it. That's the first time I've seen it done. And he went, man, that's some good stuff. You say you got another case? Bring it tomorrow. And I did. So Buddy showed me that. That's the first time I ever seen it done. And the last time I ever seen it done.
We're talking about moonshine and all that. It opened so many doors for you. It's unbelievable. I was 21 years old. I bought a piece of land. I had the land paid for. I had my well dug paid for. I had the septic tank in paid for. I had my basement paid for. I wanted to borrow $15,000. I went to the bank. They wanted something called a W-2 form. I mean, I don't know what. That threw me for a loop right there on a W-2 form. So I talked to a buddy of mine, and he said, take a half a gallon of peach brandy to First Virginia Bank and ask for the president of the bank. So that's what I did. I was 21 years old. So I go in with a brown paper bag. You know, I wanted $15,000. So I prayed it in and I sat on the desk, and the guy said, what do you do, Mr. Law? What are you living? I said, well, first off, you know, Dee Dee sent me up here. That was the guy that sent me up there. I said, I'm self-employed. He looked at me just as funny. He said, you make liquor for a living, don't you? So I got real quiet for a second. I said, yes, sir. I had my head down. I said, yes, that's what I do. Make liquor for a living. He reached up and he got that half a gallon of brandy, and he put it on his desk, and he said, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give you that money, but you better put some of it back so if you get caught and go to jail, this was his exact words. He said, so the missus can make that payment on that loan of yours. And I said, yes, sir. And I'm telling you, I got the loan for 15 years. Payment was $273 a month. I walked out of that bank. A few weeks later, I looked up. I said, how in the world will I ever make such a huge payment? So, yeah, liquor opened a lot of doors for you, a lot of doors. A lot of times you couldn't get people you couldn't pay, like the officers and all. You could never pay any officers off in our area. You never did. But that don't mean they wouldn't overlook stuff from time to time. And one time he hit my place and had 50 cases of brandy in it. 50 cases. We just run it that day. The cop comes down, raided my house, had the house, you know, completely surrounded. So the cop goes downstairs, and I walk downstairs with him, and the whole wall was covered. 50 cases of brandy. And I said, we've been doing a lot of canning this year. He just kept walking. I kept walking. So we headed back up the steps, and we headed up the steps. Another officer started to come down the steps, and that cop was with me. He said, no, the guy that we're looking for is not here. So I'm waiting for the hammer to get dropped in a second. So we go upstairs, and we headed out the door, and that cop nudged me. And he said, I know that's not canned fruit down there, and you know I know it's not canned fruit down there. He said, that guy you're fooling with, man, he said, you better leave him alone. He said, it's bad news. And sure enough, you know, I called Dad and Ken. I said, we got to get this brandy out of here. We got to get it out of here quick. So we got it out, but the guy was a local. You know, he was a local. He was born, raised up in Ferrum. And you know, he just overlooked it. You know, it was a whole lot of money right there at Christmas and all. Well, a few years later, several years later, he moved way on up, you know, in the police department. And I wrote that book, 100 Proof. And in the book, I changed his name. You know, I changed it to, another name. I didn't want to put his name in there. So he came down to my dad's house, and he had the book. and wanted Dad to sign it. So Dad took the book, and Dad looked at him and said, we wrote about you here in the book. He said, yeah, I know you did, Amos. I really appreciate you not putting my name in there. So we didn't. Anyway, look at open a lot of doors for you. It's just hard to beat it, really, hard to beat it.
I've got a little special memorabilia. He didn't know I'd kept it for 50 years. Ronnie, where'd you go? We got 2 plaques. But anyway, I've got this, I've been hanging on these things for 50 years. 50 years waiting for the right moment for Ronnie. You know, Ronnie is, as far as the class of his dad's era and myself, he was the older one. He had a driver's license and we didn't. So people like Ricky and Larry Pearson, Sterling Marlin, Dale Jarrett, Ronnie sometimes was a chauffeur. So Ronnie introduced myself to this thing that we used to go to years and years ago around the back, and they called it Hoochie Coochie. And we always went at Rockingham during the race. It was, I guess, a fall race. I don't know which race it was, but it was pretty exciting to go to. He'd drive us there. But anyway, I don't know if these fell out of his pocket or the lady that had the birthday suit on fell off of her. I'm not sure, but they're yours. So anyway, that's my trips with Ronnie Thomas. So I hope you enjoyed yourself. Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I'm going to take it, Mike, before he starts on me.
The Woods Brothers is synonymous in all of racing, and they paved the way for so many different other teams to do and enjoy the rich history of racing. I mean, those guys have won championships. They've been in engineering. They've done different things from the pit stops, evolutionized all of that. They went to Indianapolis 500 and changed everything that they knew about pit stops there. And those guys have just basically been true champions. And if you know any of them, Lynn, Eddie, back from Glenn, all of them, they are our people. And, when I was growing up, I got to see them race at Martinsville Speedway. And as a little kid, we used to have a little saying around here, the Merc flew, the Chevy blew, the Dodge will come in a day or two. Sorry about that, buddy, Eric fans. And so but that's what we used to do, right? And so, but I got to know those guys really well as I got into racing and representing them in souvenirs and stuff. And I found out just not the rich history that, those are people that give back. I want to tell one story, since they're not here, I get to say it. So I get to tell you a little Woods Brothers story. So I was driving, we had a rain out in Pocono. We were riding over to Watkins Glen, and Lynn and Eddie rode with me over to Watkins. And we got to talking about old school stuff. And I said, tell me one of the stories that nobody knows. Tell me the coolest story. And he said, back in the day in 72, 73, NASCAR used to, mold the car to fit what you sold, out of the showroom on Monday. And I was like, okay. He said, so we built this fast race car and stuff. And he says, we were thinking about, how were we going to get through tech? Because they had done some modifications. And back then, the manufacturer helped you do everything. It ain't like it is a trash can today, right? It is a trash can, the car. I'm not saying it's wrong with it. I'm saying it's built in certain specs, telemetry, and that's just what the bounds of what they're doing. And they said that they took that thing there and they had to have a whole day of tech at Daytona. And so the Woods brothers knew that they were outside the line, but he says, we got a fix to it. And Eddie and him was telling me what was going on, and he said they got up there and they said, it don't fit our templates. And the Woods brothers told NASCAR, yes, they fit the templates from the showroom. They said, nope, We went and measured them, and back then they used to go down on the beach, go to the Ford Mercury dealership, and they would do the measurements and bring them back. Everybody knows that's what they used to do. And so the Woods brothers says, no, built it to the exact manufacturing specifications. And so the Francis got a little tick, so they sent all their officials down to the store. I'll be darned. The measurements were wrong. So they brought it back, measured it again, said, oh, you're dead on. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I said, how did that happen? He said, we knew they were going to do it, so the week before we'd change the measurations on that deal. So they changed all the measurements on the car. And so they got by with it, which I think is brilliant. But, look, we can sit here, but the Woods brothers have given so much to so many people. They won the Daytona 500 Indy. And I can only say that, look, on their behalf, we accept this, but they've given so much more just to the community and to racing that I can't wait till they get 100, just so we can all celebrate with them, and it's coming.
Right now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Phillips Group, the chairman of the Republican Party for Henry County, Eric Phillips.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Senator. Good evening. What a great evening, and I enjoyed all the fun stories we've had here tonight about moonshining. You may know a few moonshiners in my wife's family from out at Shooting Creek Road out that way, past Endicott. And anyway, I've never had any just for medicinal purposes. Just kidding. But what a wonderful event. So thankful to be here tonight. And I have the pleasure of talking about the Wendell Scott family. And I'm going to ask Warwick, if he didn't mind, to come on up with me. But, the Wendell Scott Foundation, go ahead and give him a hand. So they have the Wendell Scott Foundation. It's a nonprofit. It commemorates, the first full-time African-American racer at the highest level, which at that time was the Grand National, I believe. And he also was the first one to win a Grand National race, and I believe it was in Jacksonville, Florida at that time. And their foundation provides services to at-risk youth. It helps with STEM education and all kinds of wonderful things. They also have a partnership, I believe, with NCI here in Martinsville, so we're so appreciative for that. You guys sponsor a NASCAR, a truck in the series there, I think with number 24. That's really cool. So you had a great event, and we appreciate that the other night here at NCI. And they're just doing a lot of wonderful things. And I always see on ESPN and different things when they talk about your grandfather, I believe, he is the fact that he would be driving and he would go into pits and he would jump out and work on his own car. And then jump back in and take off again. I mean, that's another level than what we see today when they have hundreds of people working in these shops. And he was virtually a one-man operation, did it all. So why don't you say a few things about your foundation and about your grandfather, if you don't mind.
All right, well, good evening to everyone, and thank you for recognizing my grandfather and my family with this distinguished honor. To the Arrington family, we say thank you. To Danny, we say thank you. This is a wonderful facility. And so we're happy that it's here. Scott Racing was a family affair. I see we have our good family friend, Irvin Brooks. Rest in peace to Bobby Fleming. Those guys were with my grandfather along with my uncles, my father, and the other gentlemen from our community. My grandfather raced his entire career without the benefit of sponsorship. He's the only NASCAR driver inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame that was never sponsored. All right, so that's worth a round of applause. He was an engineer without the benefit of a formal education, much like many of you guys. You had to make sacrifices for your family, and so this is something that I was born into. The work that we do at the foundation, it is our life's work, and we will continue to uplift my grandfather's name. With our program and the things that we do. My grandfather was also one of the top bootleggers of his time. And so I think we all know a little bit about that. And I can remember him telling me and talking to me about a lot of those times and a lot of those days. And my grandfather he was running moonshine more than just around here. And I don't know if you all know that, but he had an entire operation that extended from Baltimore, Maryland, all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina. And he was only jammed up, I think, maybe one time. And to you all's point, the one time he did get jammed up When he finally got out of federal court, he walked in the front door and went right out the back door and got right back to it, like it had never happened. So, but the Wendell Scott legacy, praise God, is scaling, and we have some wonderful things in the future. And we certainly thank you for this recognition. Have a good night.
One of the great honors that we have as state senators, and I actually sit in the Senate seat that was occupied by me previously by one of the greatest senators that Virginia has ever known and one of the greatest congressmen that Virginia has ever produced, the man to my right, who's done more for the Commonwealth of Virginia since our founding fathers, Virgil Goode. So give him a round of applause. One of the honors that we have is, of course, we can put in commending resolutions and memorial resolutions, and when we do that, we honor the person that might have been with us and has done great things and may have passed. And so this January 23rd, 2023, agreed by the Senate and the House, we passed a Senate of Virginia Senate Joint Resolution number 264 commending and remembering Buddy Rogers Arrington. Mr. Arrington, we honor your father today. He will be greatly missed, but he will be never forgotten. For all of us sit here today, right at this place, right at this moment, because of his memory and because of you, and your desire to make sure that the past of NASCAR, so rich in its history, shall not perish from this earth. So please accept this on behalf of a grateful Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Thanks for what you're doing here, Dan. It's great.
I'm just going to follow up one thing that Jeff said about his dad. Buddy Arrington was a teacher. That's all you can say. Isn't that right, Wayne? Yes. Okay.
I think Congressman Goode has more to give.
Bill, thank you for that wonderful resolution that you sponsored in the state Senate. On behalf of Congressman Morgan Griffith, who couldn't be here tonight, I have the honor of presenting to Joey Arrington this flag that was flown over the United States Capitol in recognition of all that Buddy Arrington has contributed to racing and to the Martinsville, Henry County community. And Joey, I want to thank you for all your work in getting this location and everything you've done to make tonight possible. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you. I won't go into it right now, but
Go ahead.
there's a lot of people behind all this, and I'll mention them a little later.
So, Joey, on behalf of Delegate Les Adams, who couldn't be here tonight, he's at a funeral, I want to present you with a Virginia flag that was flown over the state capitol there in Richmond, and also a Commonwealth of Virginia certificate here in honor of Joey Arrington. We want to say thank you to you, Joey, for your contributions to racing and to Martinsville and Henry County, and for coming back home and opening this beautiful facility. We can't all wait to see what you do with the rest of your space here. We know what you've done with the front side, and I know you've got a lot of plans locally for some other things that you've bought and own, and so we're all excited to be here tonight, and thank you for putting on such a wonderful event.
Thank y'all. Well, anyway, like I said, he was a teacher, and we'll take it from there, and it's okay. We've got another award here, but really, it needs to go to someone else. It was with Daddy's best friend. He called him Jim Bob. Jim, it's yours. Keep your seat. One thing left to say. When I was growing up, 9, 10, 11 years old, 7 years old, there was always hot rods around. But there's a couple special people in my life that, Mama said you couldn't go hang out with them because it was too old. But they were street racers, and I think all of us started somewhere in the street. You may have just done burnouts at stoplight. You may have done something on a mile-long straightaway. You never know. But Mr. Benny and William Lee Hairston, I'd like for somebody to come up and grab a plaque for them. And so you guys don't know, Benny and William Lee, as far as my career, we'd go race on Friday and Saturday night, and sometimes I'd go back home and I lost. But, they said, keep coming, keep trying. And, those guys, they set a standard for myself that can't be replaced. So thank you very much.
I don't know anything about moonshine, but I can tell you some street racing. I tell you that. But I know if Will was here, he would love to be remembered by his racing. And I appreciate this, and I appreciate the invite tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Folks, first of all, I'd like to thank the people that helped put this on, Danny Turner, Mrs. Ingram. We've got this car show folks. I'm drawing a blank now. But anyway, thank you for, Heads of state. And we can't say enough for the people to come out tonight and hopefully enjoyed the show, and we'll try to figure out what to do next time with that, whatever they may lead us into. And, the only reason we done it is so I could burn Ronnie Thomas's ass. So, but anyway, thank you much. You can hang out here and meander around, and or you can go home, but be safe, whatever you do. Thank you much. Thanks for coming out.
They said it started in the 40s with Grandpa and his moonshine. Had him waiting in the city like the liquor there on time. When the sun went down, he drove by the moonlight. He was running from the law in the dark of the night. Running moonshine straight from the holler. The best corn whiskey sold in a mason jar. I learned to drive while he earned $1. He liked the taste of whiskey, I just like that car. We came roaring off the mountain in his 49 coupe Ford. I was the third generation, but first to have the block board. We took air on the hills, left steel on the low ground. Had to make the county line before the moon come down. Running moonshine straight from the holler. The best corn whiskey sold in a mason jar. I learned to drive while he earned $1. He liked the taste of whiskey, I just like that car. Daytona started in the back row, ended up in 5th place. It was running pretty good, not bad for the first race. And my daddy always said, boy, don't you ever give up.